Got it.
So we are live. We're back again. Sunday night. Got JMO in the house, and we've got Jada Spark in the house. That's a quickly look at the name in the corner. What's new, guys? What are we talking about tonight, Jamie? You've arranged this. You sprung it on me whilst I was having death-defying battles with the fully charged crew.
Well, what we're going to talk about is what's been happening to you this week, as normal, and then amazingly, it's not a bank holiday weekend, so we've actually managed to get Jay on, my good old internet friend.
It's pretty rare.
So, yeah, it's rare. I mean, there's been that many bank holidays. I sort of think we was never going to do a podcast again with anyone else. But Jay's
right?
Come on, talk about what he's up to. And we're just going to get back into flow of having a guest after you do the sponsor read.
Well, have you done news this week? No, because you're late.
I have got some news, actually. So we're not allowed to swear, apparently, Sam said. So I've got some news. So, Sam.
Go on, what?
Well,
What's the news?
Well, you do the sponsor read first, don't you?
Go on, then.
I'm not doing
this week's episode,
yeah!
as usual.
Oh, my God, look at that box.
I know, it's like a trainer box. It's like a trainer box. I almost feel like someone sent me some fresh crepes, but they didn't. They sent me, even better, a Verso fuse board. I've had it for a while now. I do need to sling it in somewhere. It's very lovely. It's coated in a really nice coating. It's got silver buzz bar. All the breakers are the bollocks. They like even my Audi screwdrivers work in them.
You what?
Audi screwdrivers. They're $6.99.
Oh, Audi. I thought you meant the car brand. It was really high quality. Then I realised.
No, do you know what?
Audi.
Do you know what I've been finding? Like Ludum fuse boards, yeah? Doesn't matter if you use Weira. They don't, the RCBOs don't tighten up. They're crap. But with Verso, they tighten up. Nice.
I've found the same with, and I've fitted a lot of these over the last 3-4 years. I found fuse box RCBOs the same. Like
absolute dog shit.
Yeah, even if you use, what are they, PZSL or whatever. I've snapped loads of those, right? And that is like hand tight, not even at a torque on those RCBOs. And it's only in those I've snapped them.
So much so that the guy at Weira, like the technical guy, actually said that Fusebox are making their screwdrivers look bad because Fusebox is a popular brand now.
Yeah.
But where even like the creme de la creme screwdrivers can't deal with their shitty ECBO screws, ECBO. What is wrong with me? RCBO screws. Like everyone's thinking, oh, well, them screwdrivers are rubbish now. Nothing's changed. Just
yeah.
You know, I will always go in on something and research it and find out something, say it's good. I don't want to start slagging off people already. I've got better things to do tonight, but I've got a fuse box under my stairs, as in the brand. And when they first came out, they seemed to be a lot of high quality. And then they did, man. I fitted 3. Every single job I did, I had to go and replace RCBOs, and I just binned them off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a big thing, I think, they had. They kept it quiet, though, but there was a problem with RCBOs, and they made me look like a right dick.
They've just been sold or bought out of now. I can't remember.
By Robus.
That's it, Robus. So, like, I think I fit the first one in lockdown 1, if you like, literally in 2020. Like, my mate bought a flat, and I literally gutted it because it needed redoing, and then like lockdown happened. Anyway, so I fit the first one then. I fitted probably 2-3 a week since then, on average. And they were fine. You're right. The quality, for some reason, did just go down. I felt when you fit them, they would bend it. And the RCB, like the DIN rail as well, when you're trying to put the cover on, you're always having to fight it. Always having to fight it. And the RCBOs, got to the point where I was having to do them up with like a PZ1. No, like a PZ1. And then talk them up afterwards because they I've been tightening up these Ludum ones and these BG ones with a flathead. Yeah, like a 5.
Stops it slit. Yeah, like a big fat flathead getting in there. You could get some good talk on it, but the reality is, with a PZ2 or something like that, they just slip. It's rubbish.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of it about. And I think it's because manufacturing is getting back going again, and there could be stuff slipping through now. And I appreciate that could happen to anyone. But when you get if a screw snaps, you think, oh, I've got too much of a risk. But when you're going back to RCBOs because they won't trip or test, because the 3 people are fitting them for actually try and test them, it's annoying and embarrassing because I got behind them. But never mind.
I find that their trip times are inconsistent. Like, I always found that Hager used to fit a lot of Hager before it, then obviously because when Fusebox come out and hit the market, like a lot of people, they were like, well, I can either pay £33 for an RCBO or I can pay £12.50. Do you know what I mean? So, and started fitting a lot of fuse box, and found that the trip times were inconsistent. I always found Hager ones would go about 14, something around that, and they would be like 18, 19, 21, something. Not that matters, but it just wasn't consistent.
You just assume that same manufacturer, you're going to get a consistency, aren't you? And
gives
you the heebie-jeebies on your test sheet, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially if you fit, like, say you do like a 20-way board or whatever, and you fit, like, I don't know, so like 3 rings, you know, like a this, that, the other, and then 3 lighting circuits, and you'd expect them all to be of similar values, and then not. You just like, anyway. But yeah, I think you're right.
When you ain't got
so the moral of the story
is fit Verso.
Fit Verso, you don't have any of that problem.
No,
the price point is excellent. They're of the best quality. I love them. I fitted one last week and it was like a different world fitting it. Like you said about the DIN rail, the DIN rails are solid. So you click it on and then you put the board on and you're like, all of a sudden I don't have to wangle it in.
Do you know what the best bit is though? Do you know what makes them the best? Generally, I don't get paid by them.
Silver plated buzz bar.
No. What makes them good to use?
Because don't they test you? Oh, I should know this. Don't they test every single
bollocks. Will is all over social media. And if you message him about something, he'll get back to you. And he's done that for me. I says, what about this? What about that? He comes back to me, and I've heard reports that he does that from people as well. And I'll say that because I know he does, not because of.
I feel bad.
That's a good thing having a face.
When they came out, you messaged me before saying like, this is our brand, this or the other, and I still haven't fitted one yet. And that's not because I don't want to, just because I haven't had the chance. So I've got to put one in my parents' house actually. So I think I'll put a Verso in there because everyone said they are ace. Like, and I think is it Cable Smith was saying you can put the cover on like one-handed. Yeah. I think contacting
upside down.
Yeah, they contacting the only other one I know. You can just like literally slot it on and it goes rather than
It's unbelievably like I've had to fit a couple of BGs and a Luden and stuff like that. And honestly, getting that front cover on is like you're like, what witchcraft do I have to perform to get this to fit?
You remember the Crystal Maze? If you get the cover on, you get 15 seconds inside the Crystal Dome.
You know, like when you sit like I haven't got kids, but you see kids and they're trying to put like the star in like the
exactly that.
It's like that, and it's like, all right, it'll go. But,
right, we've done it well there. They pay us extra for that. The news, this one little news, just to chat things. Couple of things to cover. First of all, I spoke about Shelley last week. I had a lot of good feedback on that. Hope they're not going to shit on me as a brand, but we did that. Something I meant to mention was, if anyone's on Octopus, there's an app called Octoaid. So I don't know what an API is.
No.
Sort of. So basically, Octopus have got all your data on your usage, and they make that available as an API, which means you can ask it questions and it'll give you data back. Yeah. There's an app called Octoaid. I'll put a photo of it on my Twitter and Instagram after the show, and that drags down all the data that you send to Octopus and produces it in what I would say is a really good format without you buying anything. So I just want to pick it up. It's a free app. The guy that makes it's for free, I think he's obviously into his computers and stuff. I will let him know we talked about this podcast. So if you want to get into a bit of monitoring and metering and all that kind of stuff and look at what you're using, that app is brilliant, particularly if you're into renewables, because what it does is it tells you how much you're using on and off peak. So yeah, it's really good. I just want to mention it.
God, I nearly fell asleep. Just quickly. I'm a dickhead today.
You're a dick today.
Yeah, not swearing straight away.
Is it 5 minutes? Let's go. Woohoo!
Woo! Right, so Hackwood Electrical. What's up, electric barbecue lovers?
I am the electric barbecue expert, trademark. Thank you very much. We'll come to that
Connor
later.
Dines, Matthew Rogers, GH Electrical. GSH Electrical. David Savory in the house. Mark Hallison in the house. Sean Dempsey. Mate, we got a full house tonight.
We've got some big players tonight. Jay's actually on. Savory's on next week, he reckons. And we've got some big players in there. Dave said some, actually, I think we should talk about. CEF Live.
Oh, yeah. So CEF Live this week. I'm not going. It's 6 hours away from me. I can't be bothered to drive up there. I've got other shit to do, like find a job.
I did a little bit on the Instagram about this because a lot of people are being paid to talk about it. But I genuinely think it might be worth going to.
It will absolutely be worth going to. I wish I could go to it, but this brings me on to a little subject of mine, right? So I've been doing very well, like with the old going self-employed, getting my own work domestic locally and stuff. It's been all right. I'm not going to lie, but I've had 2 really slow weeks. and that's ruined
They
it.
sure you've not been on the terminal again. Actually, it's going really fast.
Yeah, probably. But no, I've had some really slow weeks, so I have got to look for a job, like go back on site for a couple of weeks just to sort of stack up the work, which I don't think is actually a loss. I think it's kind of like I go back for a couple of weeks, I stack up my jobs, and I'll have a couple of weeks back doing that and hopefully get the momentum going and stuff like that. In the meantime, earning peanuts as a commercial sparky is ridiculous. This is my company, my local electrician.
So everyone knows what to avoid.
How dare you?
It's not a failure to go back contracting, though, is it? If there's a contracting about
it must be quite nice. You can chop and change that, as you say. You can jump on site and sub for a couple of weeks. And
do you know what? Do you know what happened with me? Right, I wouldn't have dreamt of this maybe two years ago, but one of the things that's really sort of opened my eyes to being able to do this is I've done a lot of flat bashing because that's all that was about, and I was like, this is so easy. And then obviously this podcast where I get to speak to all types of electricians. I'm learning stuff all the time. I actually have a little bit of an advantage because I know so much stuff that's probably not useful, but in the moment might be useful to have a conversation about. I have the ability to talk to so many people, download their knowledge onto me, and it just gave me so much confidence to go out on my own and do this sort of work. And I'm just in a position where I feel like I'm in a position in my professionalness that I can actually do anything.
Anyway, wakey. Just in the chat, happy birthday to Will. No one see this on Instagram. Will's electrical services, 6 years old. He did a bit in front of the
yeah. Congratulations, Will.
Congratulations, Will. What Will said on there intrigued me about. I think he said his old.
He's got to be 60 years old, isn't he?
I want him to come on and tell us why he got into self-employment. That'd be a good one. Back on. So
what I will say is shout out to Will on here, and I don't think it gets highlighted enough. Like I've watched Will since he's been on Instagram and this that the other. Watching him grow. Not only is he a really good lad, like I've met him very briefly when Chelsea beat us in the semi-final. But anyway, never mind. He's a really nice lad. He always comes across. But what I have to say, he's got 3, probably 4, maybe even more apprentices now. And the way he treats them is always really, really good. And I don't just mean as in that. Like he's done, when you watch his videos, he said if he gets them to come in for a Saturday, like he buys them a tool and this, that, the other to say thanks. And like I remember him saying, like I think he didn't have the best apprenticeship or wasn't treated the best. So he sort of pays that forward. And I don't think that gets highlighted enough. So
I think I said this before. Will, he did that bit in front of the camera, didn't he? Look that uncomfortable doing it because he's all about his lads. He's all about his lads, and you can tell that it really comes across. So yeah, if only more employees like him.
Hold on, we've even got E-Fix join the chat. Mate, we're popping tonight. We got the players in the house.
Hang on, you're going to make all the Normo Sparkos think we don't love them too. we love you all from top to bottom.
No, but we're popping off today, big boy.
Dempsey's in now, look. He's in all. That's it. Let's just have a party. So,
do you know what? I'm particularly hyper today. I feel like my pneumonia's going. I've had pneumonia.
Hang on, stop. Revert back to that because you haven't explained it. Please tell everyone.
No, so my cough that I had for weeks turned into pneumonia. I was very ill for last week, and then I've taken these tablets. They're about that big, and I didn't know whether to
suppositories
deposit them or swallow them.
They did both.
No, I just.
Where'd you order?
Every hole's a goal.
It's so annoying because me and Sam speak in the week and that, and texting and stuff, and I'm like going, "Oh, stop being a fanny and all that, man up and all that." But it turns out he's got pneumonia.
No, yeah, you're like shit.
You're like a right dick.
But no, so it's starting to wear off, and I've got all this energy. I'm feeling good. I even had a shower before this podcast just to sort of pop off. And I get quite high from winding up people. And I've been going after a particular crowd.
Come on, let's get it out. I can see you itching. Let's do, hang on. The EV section, a new weekly section.
No. See,
hammer the EV world.
Let me just get this very straight, right? I like the innovation coming from the EV world. I love it. I think it's awesome. And if I could have any car, it'd be a Rimac Nivera or whatever they're called. They are sick.
Rimming.
Or wait until you see it. You'll pull that stupid face and then
is this the foreign one? The
Croatian.
Yeah,
It
that's
is
it. Yeah, yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. And I would love a Cybertruck. And I would love solar on my house. I'm a fan. I'm in. What I'm not a fan of is these. No, it's not even that. So it's these EV people. If you say, I'm not sure about this, I feel like, there's people getting cobalt out of the ground with their hands. They go, we haven't used cobalt in batteries for years. And the oil, the petrol companies, they use it all the time. And and you just get this barrage of aggressive attack being thrown at you about EV and all the stuff around it. So
Can I start one up for this week, and you finish this. I want to set the scene for people that aren't on Twitter. Let me set the scene. There was a Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, right, who is a degree educated electrical and electronics engineer who then did a master's in control engineering, who's a massive petrol and owned loads of cars and was a very early adopter of EV and has had one for the past, I think he said, is it 10 years, something like that?
Yeah.
He did a piece on EV as an EV owner, an opinion piece, talking about his personal experiences about EV. And all the EV people that sounded like told him that he was wrong. You are wrong. And that's, I think,
Just that.
started it.
They've always been like it. You can't say nothing against the cult of EV, is what I've been calling it. But I've been down the rabbit hole this weekend, and I've sort of found like some of the spiritual leaders of the cult of EV.
What they called what are they called? What are those spiritual leaders called? They've got
Level 7 vegans, I don't know.
It'll come back to me.
Scientologists.
Yeah, Scientology EV. Gurus is a guru.
Gurus.
The
Like,
gurus.
yeah, 100%. Like, so you got Fully Charged, right? Which is like the darling of all EV people.
And
Really?
what are they?
So they're just like a TV sort of / YouTube thing. That
You know
That's a
what they
YouTube
are?
channel, isn't it?
Do you know
yeah,
what
so
are?
they review EVs and all the innovations and stuff, which is great. And their content's great, and the stuff they do is great. It's like they got Crichton from Red Dwarf is one of their guys, right? He's particularly aggressive and a bit of a dick to people who dare step out of line. And then they've got this mega bellend. And it's my opinion.
Hang on, because someone came back as this week because we called him a bellend, but you're calling this person specifically a mega bellend.
Mega bellend,
yes.
Just to clarify,
It's my opinion. It's not the opinion of the show.
This person exceeds that person last week who we named.
Yeah.
He's a mega
Dan
bellend.
Caesar from Fully Charged. Mate, you say anything like that isn't kissing his ass, he will just launch a tirade at you. And then all of his nut huggers will be joining in. And it's just like this mad like nonsense. So whilst I love EV and the whole movement, there is a specific part of it which I call the cult of EV that don't let you have any sort of ability to question anything about it, and it's driving me nuts. So I declare war on the cult of EV.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
The thing
No,
is,
brother.
we're gonna do an EV podcast in the future. We're trying to get John on. I forgot his second name. Someone remind me. John, who actually drives an EV and drives all over the country doing electrical work. Because I know another John. John is
John Bagley. He's coming on.
I've asked him to come on. He actually travels all over the UK. I'm talking miles and miles and miles in an EV does electrical work, which is commendable. But he's going to come with his own opinion about it. But the problem with the guy you're on about, Dan Caesar, is he's just a marketing man.
He's
just an advertising agency. He's only been into EV for 8 years since he got on Fully Charged. Before that, he was flogging every other renewable horse going. If you look at his LinkedIn profile, but he is particularly aggressive.
Yeah, he is. And I just was like, mate, this is easy pickings because you're just being a dick. So outside of that, love EV. Don't like Dan Caesar. Not a massive fan of some of the attitudes in the EV world, but if they're pushing a good agenda, do it in a nice way. Stop doing it like dickheads.
It's like parking as well, though, isn't it? Like I saw John Ward put a post on Twitter earlier. He's got an EV van, and he's saying all chargers should be like this. And the charging system we put up right. You go to the charger, you plug it in, you tap your card on it, contactless. It charges. You tap your card on it, it stops charging, and you pay. Which seems to be like it's like a normal way of buying shit, isn't it? Whereas a lot of them want to have apps, and people saying like, if you want to charge a car, you've got to have 20 apps, and it's so full of marketing and data gathering bollocks at the minute. EV, it just needs to settle down into like you're only buying electricity. It's nothing new. You're not buying special electricity. There's no like 55 octane electricity, is there? But it seems a
No,
lot of confusion in it.
it's nonsense. Like, there's a lot of nonsense around EV. It's an emerging market. Is it the future? Don't know. I really don't think it's a future until someone invents like the Iron Man, the arc reactor that goes in your chest and then can power a suit. That's the future. Everything else is rubbish.
I'm concerned that we keep talking about it, but what I think we're doing is we're following it because it's going to develop quite fast in the next couple of years.
But here's the thing, right? And Mark said this brilliantly yesterday, right? He said this brilliantly. Sparks are the conduit between brands and consumers, which leaves us in a very powerful position. And this is the thing that really drives me up the wall. I'm not anti-EV, right? And I want to be able to discuss EV in its entirety without being shot down. And as electricians, we underestimate our influence on the industry, and we underestimate our influence in general. And we deserve way more respect from these companies, EV companies, organizations like that. And remember, being the conduit to the consumer, our recommendation is almost money in the bank for them. So the whole consumerism society is run off the back of 5-star reviews and stuff like that, and recommendations and endorsements. It's funny, and we're at the bleeding edge of that. And so it drives me mad. What these people have to remember is we're the kids who messed about at school, right? We've done all right. We could get C's and B's without even trying, but we didn't. We fucked about because we wouldn't be told what to do. And we say it as it is, and we say it how it is, and that's just who we are. We don't have it. And as electricians, we need to start sort of understanding our position in the industry a lot more.
Do you know what?
We're way more powerful than we let on.
Do you know, at the minute, right? I've got a theory on this. I'd love to know everyone's opinion on it. Yeah, you know when solar first came out a few years ago, it was the new big thing. It got absolutely swallowed up by these fly-by-night firms that just did it and fucked off. Then it all died down again. It's come back, and it seems this time around a lot more sparkers got involved with it. At the minute, with EV, in 10 years' time, you will need a spark to fit you a charger. But at the minute, there's all these big firms bottom feeding, mopping them all up. And they don't really care about the average spark at the minute. But in the future, they would have to, because we will be recommending chargers.
There's a geezer on Instagram. I think it's Sota Electrical. Anyway, I think he's big on TikTok. He's on Instagram as well, and he was saying on that EV point. I'm sure all of us have been and seen an EV charger that's been poorly installed, badly, etc. And I think he actually signed up with one of these national firms that goes pumping them out for, I don't know, I think it's like 300 quid or something. I think Aaron was saying, wasn't he?
We get you all the gear, you go and do the job, that's the end of it.
Yeah, but like it could be like in North London, it could be in Somerset, or like you've got to pay to get there and whatever. And I think he was saying he was going to sign up just because he does a really good job. I've seen his work and, neat that. And he said he was going to sign up with them to show the consumer the difference between.
He was going to sign up to them as like the company report style. Like
this is what you're paying for, and this is what you get. I don't know if he's done that yet or not, but that's quite interesting because, like you say, they are like 10 a penny now. Like you go to quote them, and people are getting done for a stupid price. So
for your average spark at the minute, and I know Dave did a bit on this a while ago, it's just not worth it. It's not worth bothering with. If you've got an existing customer who says, "Can you get me a charger?"
Yeah.
Like my mate went to me, "I want a charger." Says, "Get a zapper." He says, "Oh, get this third." It's like, look, the firm that will come round might be dog shit. Says, just get the subsidy, get the charger. If they rough it in, I'll come and tidy it up for you because he got the charger cheap. And it just weren't work. I couldn't supply it to him the cheapest they could. But it's all getting a bit of a pain in the arse. But I think in the future they would have to come down to our level. It's all having all these big flashy trade shows, but one day it's going to be the spark is word that is law, like it is with say light fittings on which charger people get. So they're forgetting about us at the minute, but I think they'll come back.
Yes, and that's my thing. Anyway, moving on. What is the whole point of this podcast tonight?
Well, we've actually got a guest on, and it's not bank holiday for a start.
So, this is what happens when you leave it to Jamie, right?
Well,
Jay, Jay, now,
yes, sir.
You've gone the other way. You've gone into employment. What is that about?
As people may or may not know, I was self-employed for the best part of 10 years. And I got an opportunity to go in and do solar. I had a mate who recommended me who was working for him. And two things. I thought, you know what? Oh, so I'm breaking stuff on Mrs. Desk here. Two things. I thought, it's a good renewable energy to get into. Like, it is sort of popping, shall we say. It's going to be the future, I think. And the money was really good. And I just thought, why not? It was a really good package. So I thought, why not? And I haven't regretted it so far. It's different. You're learning something new. Jamie, you said before, if you've got to be earning or learning. And I quite happily stayed doing what I was doing for, not another 10 years, but a long time. And I just thought, why not? So yeah, that's why I moved into it. And I have to say, going from doing domestic work, right, so like remedial work, through wires, extensions, this, the other, and like a lot of testing, going to doing like solar PV work, the graft is so much different. Like, it's a lot easier on your body. Just
to review, in case we're following Instagram, Jay, you was like a jobbing spot, but now you are doing solar, and batteries. Is that EV as well, or is that solar?
That's right. Yeah. Batteries. So basically doing sort of the panels. The roofers do the actual panels themselves. We do the electrical side of it. Doing battery storage, and there are car chargers and eddies, etc. Optimize.
So the little renewable package that all the users
yeah. Basically, that's what we're doing. So
that's interesting. I mean, I couldn't think of anything I want to do less. Now, so over the last couple of weeks, I've been ill. Work slowed down, so I've got to go back on site. I'm kind of dreading it, but I'm also quite grateful that I can do both. Is that how you're feeling? Like, if it don't work out, you can just pie it off and go back to doing what you're doing.
There is that. As I subbed for about 10 years, I've got a lot of my work through a couple of people, so I know I can go back and do that, which I can. I still do a bit of testing for them now and again, but weirdly, it felt weird being employed, because I haven't been employed for best part of a decade.
Have you got to wait a month for your money?
No. So this is no. So you get paid weekly despite being employed. Yeah, I know.
What, every week?
Yeah, every week. Yeah.
Lovely.
Back in the JRB days, that.
I was dreading that whole month of but also the other thing for me is there is a bit of travel, but I'm not going into London anymore. Tell her that's a lie. I went into Twickenham the other day,
but not as bad as you was doing.
No. Well, that's the first time in 2 months. And I went into Twickenham. It was add a couple of batteries, and that was it. And
that's nice work as well.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. Easy in and out, this and the other. So there's a lot more the home county. It's a lot more down this way. So the travel, honestly, is like, I can't tell you how the stress levels are reduced just not having to drive in and around South London or into places like Chelsea and this and the other. Like, just and I have to pay for parking once.
People do that, though, don't they? Say, it's a stressful job being a sparker. Then when you realise it's not the sparking that's stressful, it's the driving, parking, worrying about your van, all that crap. I will always say this, and I'll say I think this is the same for any avenue in sparking you want to go into. Whereas like Sam, doing like site work, that's a complete different kettle of fish. You probably got worried about leaving your tools in the room because you don't know the guys; they could get nicked and this and the other. You tell that story about your laser getting pinched and this and the other. You don't want to leave your van somewhere doing jobbing sparking like I was. Sometimes you go to areas, and I've always joked about this, you're like, this is a 2-man job because I'm more worried about my van than, or like you say, doing the driving and this, that, the other. Like the job generally is quite easy. Like if you've been doing it for a long time, or this, that, the other, the jobs are generally easy. Every job has its own difficulties that will pop up, etc. But you get over them because problem solving is half the job, isn't it? However, the constraints of what you have to work in, that's a difficult thing. You go into town, for example, you've got to move your van every 4 hours, otherwise you get stamped or like, it's just, And
they're so hot on it. It's like down here, like you say, I haven't had to pay for parking because I'm parking in like Ramsgate or Birchington Village. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm literally...
Both sound nice, but are shitholes.
No, look, you say that, there's certain parts of Margate that are terrible, like Cliftonville. Like, it's Cracktonville, really.
Yeah.
Can I just do a shout? It's in the chat. New Age Electrical, morning from Oz. This nutcase from Australia is listening to us live. So, hello, New Age Electrical. He's live in Oz. Electric vehicle hasn't really hit the Australia yet. But yeah, if you listen to us, New Age Electrical from Australia live, drop us a message on the social media platform, because it'd be interesting to have you on and talk about.
I think he's
how to do
messaged
things
me
in
to come on.
Australia.
I get a lot of messages for people to come, and I'm like, yeah, fine. And I
mean,
just don't go on Instagram enough to do it.
We've got some die-hard fans, but this geezer's watching us 12 hours in the dark.
Yeah.
I know, right? It must be mental.
The other thing I'd say about doing the PV side of it, generally, as you said before, Jamie, like it costs anywhere between 12 to 15 to 20 grand, depending on what you're having done. So a lot of the places you're working in, they're nice houses. They're nice.
Yeah.
You can park on the drive. So I'm so used to working in shady places where I was working with another lad the other day, and I was like, you can tell you've worked in some nice places. He's like, I was like, you've left your van door open, mate. Literally for the last
on the drive.
He's like, what? Whereas I'm always like, triple check.
You know what I've noticed on your Instagram that I don't know if you know you're doing this, but you keep putting up pictures of cups of tea and bars of chocolate customers are giving you.
Yeah.
Because it's so new that sometimes they give you something away.
Yeah.
A cup of tea with size of a piss pot.
Yeah.
How you find it technically?
There's a bit to learn on that, but I quite enjoy that. So yeah, like a lot of the time, there's getting your head around some different regs. Obviously, there's quite a few apps and stuff you have to learn. Some of the inverters and battery setups are different, but to be perfectly honest, it's a little bit like I'm not just like playing it down. And the guys like Mark and I think who else was I chatting to?
Stu
LB or someone on that. I was talking to him this morning because he found horrendous installation. If you're doing like the panels and stuff, that's a different kettle of fish because we've got roofers that do that. So we don't have to get involved now. But that you're messing with the fabric of someone's house there. But the other bit of it, if a little bit like a lot of things, if you're an electrician, you know your stuff, you can kind of slide into that. Do you know what I mean? You do have to learn stuff, but it's when you get guys, and we've had this before, that try and blag it. You know, a little bit like when you say solar or EV first came out. You know, half these charges haven't been installed by an electrician because you look at me like there is no way anyone like it's top. Do you know what I mean? You get guys.
Is that masking tape around those connectors?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? You've seen a bit of I'll tell a story about. We had a guy that came on, and I think he was recommended by someone's mate, or this, that, the other, and he turned up, and so like I'm a bit like you, Jamie. I'm remote based. I'm not based where our unit is. So a lot of the time, either kit gets dropped or like someone drops it off. This lab was based near the unit. Turns up, it's the first time I've ever met him, and you sort of turn up to a job, and you turn up a bit blind sometimes. Obviously, you've got the job sheet and what have you, and looked at it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I've got this," and he was in a rental van, right? It's only a tiny little van, and he's like, "I've got this these 4-length conduit." I was like, "Right, well, where are they? Ain't got a roof, right?" And he's like, "Oh, they're here. I had to cut them up." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I had to cut them up." And I was like, "What? Look, how do you mean? What, like cutting? You know, like if you've got a 3 meter or 2 meter length trunk in, you only need 2 meters. You'll cut like conduit off to make it fit in the van. We've all done it. Anyone that says that, is lying, right?" And he's like, he gets it out.
The footwell.
It's like about 1.5 meters long. And I looked at him, right, and went, "Mate, if someone's giving you 4-length conduit, right, it's genuinely because you need fucking 4. Like, I don't need like 18 or whatever the mass is, you know." And he just sort of looked really perplexed in it. And I said,
"It looked like an M. Do you know you do your M2 and they've got about 8 couplers in it because they've
cut
it off. It looked like that."
I said to him, "Mate, like I know you haven't got roof rack. I know he could have bent in his van. It'd been like a banana anyway." But I said, "You could have rung me and said I can't fit the conduit in the van. Can you pick some up?" And I was like, "Yes, fine. I'll do that on my way in." But that was his problem solving with chopping it up. And it was just like,
you can't. No Spark would do that, would they? No,
exactly. Would do that. So this was it. And so I had question marks raised, and I said to him, "We had to go and put a little subboard in, right? Because a lot of time you don't want to touch the existing. Put a little subboard in that's on its own, right?" It couldn't have been easier. There was this cupboard, and we had about like 900 to play with, right? And I even said to him, "I was like, right off the board," and I said, "Right, we put it in there with the SBB," and I said, "We've all done this, right?" I said, "Whatever time of your career," I said, "Don't mount it right next to that board, mate, because if you open it, you won't be able to open the cover on it, right? You've got all that space, mount it there." He came up and went, "Oh." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've mounted the bottom." I went, "Have you fucking mounted it right next to it?" He went, "Yeah." I went, "You know that thing I told you not to fucking do?" He's like, "Yeah."
There's one instruction.
Yeah, do you know, like, put it this way, I think he lasted 2 days, right? But he, his way round that was, "Oh, can we just take the flap off his other board?" I was like, "No, just fucking move it." I was like, "How much do you need to move it? What, like 20 mil?" And he went, "Yeah, about that." And I went, "Let's do that." And he went, "Oh, I don't know if I've got the slack on the cables." And I was like, "Well, I hope they're not like a guitar string, considering it's a new install." And it was just constantly fighting. But anyway, so you do get your chances, but thankfully they get found out quite easily. But I think with those parts of the market, I think people are going to try and get into it and learn on the job rather than say be a
There's
spark.
no space for like you just said. Yeah, I've just been doing my solar. I've been ringing Mark up. I've spoke to a few other people who I mean, I've named on Instagram that I'm like, oh, just this. I need to know a little about this. You know, the nickety bits you need to know. And I've sort of got it up on the wall. It all sort of does its thing. I've adapted.
Did you have a prolapse trying to get it up there? Like...
Yeah. I was on the podcast. It looks like it's made out of lead, but I used a lot of the knowledge I've already got, and I learned a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
But people, you can't learn new stuff not knowing the basics of
electronics. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Precisely. I always say doing electrical is easy, but it's just as easy to fuck it up.
Oh, massively, yeah.
So, like, and the difference between knowing how to wire a ring and being an electrician is night and day, because it's like a lot of people. Oh yeah, I wired the house myself. I always think,
oh mate,
there we go. And look, so they're already devaluing you as well. They're like, I wired the house myself. Don't know why I've even got you here.
You know what the worst is? You know,
because you don't know what you're doing, you idiot. That's why.
You know when someone's crap, when they're a sparky, but they're crap, but you know they've done an apprenticeship, but they're just crap.
Yeah.
It's the sort of manager car because you go on tired of a stores board, go and fetch this, and they know what they're going for and all that, yeah. And having a sparky who's crap is not as bad as having someone who's maybe done a course and thinks they know what they're doing. They're the most dangerous people, because even a crap sparky doesn't do dangerous stuff generally. But these people that think they're not doing, you get around like that, and you get the picture on Instagram, don't you, like a plug that's got all the copper on show inside and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how more people don't get killed, to be honest with the people.
You know what? The other day I was doing
pure luck, I think.
I was rewiring a ring. So in that house that had all the ring cut out. Anyway, the owner wanted to give me a hand. He's a builder, nice guy, and he said, "Oh, do you want me to do some? Like, we wired it all, got it all in, and I was just second fixing." He goes, "Oh, do you want me to do some second fixing?" And I was like, "Do you know how?" And he goes, "Of course I know how." Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm a builder. What don't I know?
Yeah, he half got the ump with me, and then so he did it, and I was like, and I looked at it and I went, "Well, you don't know how, do you?" Because that is not okay. He had it stripped about that much off, and it was all hanging out the bottom, and then he went into a JB, and he had about that much hanging out the JB of like the cores, and I was like, "That's not okay." He goes, "Oh, I don't mind. It's my house." Like, all right, no certificate for you.
You see, that's the problem with it, and I show every time I do some testing. Like, we all know downlight's the one, isn't they? You take a downlight down in either kitchen or bathroom, you can guarantee you're going to have that much single installation show. And when you put it on a report, especially to some landlords, and they go, "Yeah, it's been fine." Right. Yeah, it's been fine for like 20 years, or whatever. And like, I always revert back. I read this, I think, on Electrician Community. Someone's apprentice, and they went, "Yeah, so is my nan's hit." Do you know what I mean? Like, it will break and not be all right. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'd when I was younger, when I'd done my 2391, I probably in the 20s, right? This builder goes, "Oh, can you test an house?" And I'm like, "I'm young, I'm still working for someone, I've got this foreigner on." So it goes round there, it's like, right. And I know roughly what I'm doing. Yeah, I can do a house. I've started to get my head around testing. And I generally took it on as like probably one of my first tests, so I could just get used to being there. I knew I'd be there all day fucking around, yeah? So it goes to the first socket. Oh, this is no good. Someone's put normal 1.5" positive drive screws in the socket. You know, like you get sometimes, I'm like, "Oh, I'll unscrew that because it will need a new box and all that." Unscrewed it. There wasn't a box. It was just screwed to the brick.
Yeah.
It's a hole.
Yeah, I've seen it all the time, mate. Yeah.
But what had happened is the guy had got an Australian helping him. That's how they do it, apparently. And then the other one was there's a two-way line stick upstairs. Just use the earth.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I'm there going, "You can't do this." He's like, "Well, what's it for then?" I was like, "Because it's a core." And I'm like, and you try to explain to them, they've got no idea that what they're doing is absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
And you're like, you can't grasp it.
Just because it works doesn't mean like it's not bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, how many times have you seen like doing around on social media where someone's made some moody scaffolding out of pallets and whatever, and like they haven't killed themselves, right? But it doesn't mean it's all right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, don't like the chance of that ending badly is a lot closer than you might.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, the slip, trips and falls, the one, isn't it? It's just the worst one. I got the thing that I put up the other day. Might be interesting for you, Jay. I know your back's going. I bought them fold-up stools, and anyone see it? You sort of grab it.
Yeah, I want one of them.
So it's like I meant to bring it in, but I forgot. But I always say, needling smoke of the knees. And these fold-up stools, I think it's on Instagram. I'll put up again. It's sort of like a big disc. I saw the photographers using them at Notts Forest. and you pull it out and twist it in clockwise, and it locks it to any height between its full height and its low height. And when you do it anti-clockwise, it closes down. And this lad come in that I was working with, he tried to stand on it. I was like, that's not a step, that's a stool. He's like, where are your steps? And I went, it's that chair over there, they're the steps. And I'm like, even I'll do it. But everyone knows, like, if you're going to fall off somewhere, it's going to be when you're stood.
How much is one of those spinning things?
I meant to bring it in because I was going to big it up because I've used it, it's fantastic. 20 quid off Amazon.
Right. I've had one of those I've had about 3 of them, and I'll tell you why I've had 3 of them. They're great, right?
But yeah.
You need them on like a solid footing. If you put that in a flower bed or something outside, if you're doing like a JB or something and you move, you will break it, which I have done before. But also, what you need to do is you need to do the upgrade. And who was it? I think, it's someone in this group. But no, you've got a bit of, like the kneeling mats you get. Because if you're on those I've sat on one of those for 4 or 5 hours doing a board before, and it can kill your ass. If you get one of the memory foam things and cut that, and might have on that onto it, honestly, brilliant. Yeah.
I can't express like this. This is what you see pros doing. They'll do stuff like that. For 20 quid, I was like, it's going to break. Because one of the ones I was using, I like the dual top system. I'll grab one and use that as a seat, or stack them up to the right height.
You can stand on those. The T-stack ones won't have it.
No. You can't stand on 6 of them.
I found that out firsthand.
But yeah, they're you can't stand on 6 of them together. It starts giving the heebie-jeebies. But they're all right standing on. That chair's great, but it's just like, someone went, there's always something. So I was like, look, it's 20 quid. It's art adjustable, which makes a massive difference for your neck when you're doing something. And it's cheaper than knee surgery. So I'd recommend them.
So, I agree. I would love one of them. I think I'm going to have a look on thing in a minute.
You need one for each buttock. I love laughing at my own jokes.
Do you know what? I've been fannying about with fans this week. So in this pub,
only fans this week, or
ceiling fans.
Ceiling fans.
Yeah. So, mate, they're not complicated. Like, it's not rocket science. And there's particular brands that are good and particular brands that are shit. And in this pub, they've got Hunter, which are like a decent brand. They come with like a 20-year warranty.
I've never heard of them.
You take the controller out, like, because the controller burnt out on one of them, so needed to get a new controller. So I ordered up a new controller. £120 for a new controller, or £230 for a new fan.
Buy the whole lot then.
Yeah, it's buy a new fan.
What's that about?
Event Axia is still the number one fan brand.
A lot of them, yeah.
No. This Hunter, who's all over Vent Axia.
Yeah, I've not remember that, but I remember the controls that used to burn out all the time. I used to, like say, there's so many things that are cheap to replace than they are to.
Yeah, like this, like they've got 4 dip switches on the side. None of the remotes. So the old controllers won't work with the new remote, and the old remote won't work with the new controller. It's just a fucking nightmare. Like, do they do that intentionally to fuck with you?
I think electronics move so fast nowadays that, like, you buy an LED light last year, you can't get a matchy one now because they've miniaturized it, made it different.
You're not wrong.
It's a big problem.
There was it MK, or there was a brand that they changed the terminals on their, I think it was a fuse spur. Like, I know the other way. Yeah. And I can't remember who it is. Someone said put it in, it went bang. And like, I'll tell you what, N-Night, Aurora did this. So they
are they the ones that have LN Lennon on?
That's it. Yeah. So like their E8s they used to be line neutral, and then earth at the end. And then the new ones they brought out were like Len. And because we had to put different ones in somewhere, one of the lads I was working with forgot to put it in. It like just went on autopilot, put it anywhere, and bang, as you'd expect, So, but there was a brand. I don't know if it's MK, but they changed the like polarity.
The order of the polarities.
Yeah, exactly. So someone put it in and went.
Why would they even do that? Here's another thing, right? And I've never. So when you work in commercial industrial, you very rarely get a shock. Unless you're working in amongst live stuff.
Or unless you get paid on time.
Exactly. So when you're working domestic and stuff, I'm quite diligent with turning stuff off.
Yeah, you have to.
And just like doing safe isolation. I don't do full safe isolation. I'm not dumb. I just sort of check that it's not. Mate, in a pub, like pubs are the worst places in the world. This pub's got 4 fuse boards.
None of them labelled a bit.
None of them are labelled. So, what do you do? Bang out the circuit to find it? That's not professional.
Well, no,
I've never done that.
It was like when you're changing. Well, all right. Allegedly, people when they can't, and they're changing a three-phase board or they're changing one in singles, and you don't know which neutrals for what. People are flash testing it. So, I mean, I've never done that, but I know there are people that do.
Me never.
Never me either.
But yeah, like you say, it is difficult tracing stuff like that. Like, what do you do? Like,
pubs. There must be a firm that does pubs. All these firms that do pubs. Yeah.
I think. Well,
what is the obsession? I'm sorry.
There's a lot of them. Aaron, Big Aldinho.
What is the obsession with them using the biggest grid switch they can get their hands on? You go into a pub and like, oh, it's only a broken light switch, and you have to undo a coffin-sized switch and try and pull one out surgically and replace the grid switch, and then afterwards, none of it works.
Mate, they've got a grid switch. It must have 30 switches. It's unbelievable.
But as you take that off, all the cables will fall out the one next to it.
And
obviously it's 415 because why not?
Yeah.
415 light switch. So you're in there like that. It's arcing and stuff. But yeah, they're obsessed with using massive light switches and
switch fuse spurs. Everything is off a switch fuse spur. Like they spurred off a spur, and then somehow maintains like the ring, and so you'll switch off that one thinking it's turned everything off, but it ain't. That one's still got a life to it, and it's just mad. It's just chaos.
It's like one leg of the ring, and then you're like,
it's chaos.
I was doing the fire alarm in a pub once because I used to do fire alarm testing. The guy goes, "Oh, are you sparkers?" Like, yeah. He goes, "You couldn't change some lights for us, could you? While you're here for cash?" I was like, "Yeah, right then. Obviously, pay the tax." I was like, "What a piece of piss job!" And like you say, it's a fuse spur to a light, and I was like, "He said I'll give you 50 quid to change." So I was like, "Fucking bonus." What happens in pubs is they glue everything down the hope so dickheads like us don't take it. I was there 3 hours. It fucking no more nails, no more lights. I couldn't get the fucking thing.
Oh, mate, do you know what's funny about that?
The legs.
Do you know what's funny about that? I was they got this Desperado sign and they wanted it over in the corner where all the old boys sit.
But you want to nick it.
It was brilliant and it's a lovely sign.
They can see it behind here next week. Yeah.
I know, right? But it's really heavy. And they wanted it mounted on the ceiling. So I've got a bit of chain, all the correct hoops and all that. Put the first one in. And I used like the wing nut things.
Yeah.
Because it's going on plasterboard. There's no way you're getting any sort of solid fixing in a pub, right? So I've done that one. That's all nice and tight. I was like, well pleased with that. It's worked out just how I imagined it would. Anyway, measured over 43, bosh, done a little line. And as I've done a little line, my pen went through. And I was like, oh, brilliant. So I started poking it. And like that much of it was just used to be a hole. And they somehow managed to fill across a massive hole like that with like that much filler.
Is this like
a newspaper shoved over it?
Do you remember Only Fools and Horses when he buys a car? Boys, he's like, "You've sold me a car and you've put newspaper over it and sprayed over it." It's like, "How do you know it was me? Because it's yesterday's paper." But yeah,
it's exactly that. Anyway, so
over holes.
A job that should have took me, I don't know, half an hour, now turns into this 3-hour job where I've had to go and get a bit of wood, cut it, take out all the rot, if you like, to the point where, and then put a bit of batten across. Then I've had to get a bit of, cut it out all nice and square, get a bit of plasterboard, put that up, then put my fixing up, and then go back and fill it. I was like, this is not the plan.
Did you give him a prize, did you?
No, I didn't give him a prize. It's hourly.
I got asked yesterday, I was working and doing some work for a mate, and they actually said to me, like, are any of the jobs you do, are any of them as quick and easy as you thought they were? And I said, no, none of them. Like, do you know what I mean? And it is always when you're, like you say, you've got to change a light fitting, and it'll be like one pendant for another. You'll take it down, and it's just been held up by like hopes and prayers. Do you know what I mean? For like 20 years.
Voodoo.
And it's always a lava and plaster ceiling. So you take it down, and then it doesn't matter if you put dust sheet down or whatever. You know, half the ceiling comes down.
Yeah.
And then you're the arsehole. You're like,
they've always got a pub. You know, pubs every year they get smaller and smaller and smaller because they refurb over the old walls, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
I remember doing like a bar in Nottingham, and the guy had some air conditioners fitted. He wanted the electrics put into him. He goes, "Oh, they fit the air conditioners." I was like, "Cool, no problem." So I'm fucking around trying to get the supply to. He goes, "Oh, just go upstairs." I was like, "What do you mean, just go upstairs?" He goes, "Just go upstairs and wire from the back." I'm like, "What's the on about?" So I goes upstairs to the old rooms above the pub. They've jigsawed the fucking floorboards up, dropped threaded rods down, put the air conditioners on the floor, dragged them up, but left all the threaded rods sticking up in the room. They just put units across the floor to hold them up. I'm like, pubs.
They're really interesting though. They're interesting. But getting back to that lava and plaster question, and all that, putting up a pendant, and all of a sudden they want a chandelier that weighs about 50 kilos in their bedroom, and then you take down the pendant and it's lava and plaster. I've started carrying wood in my car, specifically for this.
Yeah. I used to always pinch, like, the roofing batten you get.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that always seems to be the best.
Yeah, because certain wood, you put it up there and it starts splitting. Yeah, and I'm like, that just frustrates me more than anything.
Does it give the EBGBs fixing stuff? Any kind of light that's got a bit. I always think my worry about hanging anything is going to end up on someone's head.
Yeah, if it does, it does. Like, what can you do? Like,
but if there's two things to that. You're always like, oh, I can hit wood there. You're like, brilliant. And then you'll use like a fat screw because you want a decent fix in it. And you're thinking, that's how it holds. But I really hope I haven't gone for a fucking pipe edge. I mean, if it does leak, I really hope it leaks when they can't see my brake lights anymore. Do you know what I mean?
It's guaranteed to get in the van.
Talking about putting a light up years ago, me and a lad went, and the guy we were working for, he quoted to put a light up, right? He hadn't looked at it, and he said, I was just putting a pendant up. So I think he'd allowed something like 2 hours for it, right? We got to the house. It's a nice house, right? And for start, they had one of those, like the plastering ceiling roses there, right? There was no supply.
Yeah.
So we had to literally like multi-tool like the out and pull that down without breaking it, right? We then had to cut a hole in it. We had to fish from a lot of supply because I wanted it on with the other one over. Thankfully, the joist went in our favour. And like you said, we had to get a massive bit of wood, go upstairs, roll the carpet back, get 3 boards up, put a massive bit of timber in there, put it up, and then she got the light up, right? And she got the light, and it was like, what? It was 150 pieces, one of those like chandeliers.
Yeah, just about.
And
I'd one then.
Used to say, right, it used to be like, he would just get the supply to it, put it up, and be like, no, you dress it. And she was like, no, I'll pay for it to be dressed. And we're like,
I fit lights, I do not build them.
Yeah, so we were building that sod, and they had this dog that was like, it was a poodle, but I don't know what it was mixed with, like a hound or something. It was massive. And while I'm trying to put this light, I'm just getting humped by this dog. It took 2 of us, honestly, about 4 or 5 hours to do it. And we found him after, and he's like, I'd literally only put in 2 hours for that. So it just goes to show those small jobs. If you don't look at them or don't see them,
like
how much
400 individual glass balls that come wrapped in polystyrene with tape.
Like hanging. It's just like,
I had these like long crystal things, and there was about 90 of them.
Yeah.
And you have to unwrap each one, then get the little thing, put that in, and then put it on. And I was like, and I'm doing it, and the geezer's there talking to me. I'm like, mate, don't you want to do this? He's like, oh, no. I'd rather pay you to do it. I'm like,
they just see it, don't they? Like these posh light shops or Marks and Spencers or whatever it is, or Next. They buy it. It's a little tiny box thing. They probably think, does the light get in there? Right. It's basically Meccano set number 5, isn't it? You've got to put the entire thing together yourself.
Also, the more expensive the light, the worse the instructions are for it, by the way. Like, when we had one flown in from... It was like hand blown, and it cost like 10 grand, right? And she had 2 of them for us to put up, and she had it come from Italy. And I'm not joking. The instructions for it, because it was one of those things you look at, and you're like, how does this? Like, I don't quite get how this is going to go together. And it was almost like on a postage stamp. You know what I mean? And you just like.
And the thing is, all light fittings, it doesn't matter what they are shit.
Yeah, 100%. And also,
that is the law of light fittings.
100%. And like the smallest chop box, the next block's known to me. You can just about get like a 1 mil in there. And it'll be 3 plate, and you just think, why do I bother? You question your life choices at that point.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Do you know what? This is how dumb.
Every time you see like John Lewis, right?
Someone just said that in the chat. Someone just said Laura Ashley and John Lewis.
100%. And Aurora, not Aurora, Astro, right? They are all of them awful. And you used to go to jobs, see it, and your heart used to sink. And that's when you're like, I wish I paid more attention at school. Like, to me, I wish I'd done something.
You know what? This is how dumb I am, right? I like the JCC V50 spots, right?
Yeah,
when I first got one, I was like, oh, okay, sweet. And they got like, so I'm used to going round and like putting the cable in and then taping the cable together. So brown, earth, neutral. So they all come out nice and then strip it. And then make like a double fork out of them. Well, I'm looking at these and it's got Lennell written on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's not even marked up. Who's Lennell anyway? What are these Lennell drivers? And for about 10 minutes, I was standing there going, Lennell? Why is it called Lennell?
I've seen a number of those. I've seen a number of people do exactly the same thing.
Ryan's apprentice Cash had that, didn't he? 'Cause he was digging him out on, I think it was Instagram. He was like, "Who's Len? Who's Len, or whatever?" Like
Lennell. Yeah,
Lennell.
And I was standing there, and I was like, "Oh wow, I'm never telling anyone that." You know what I mean? It's ridiculous, but yeah, I don't like the way they're good solid lights, right? Mm-hmm. I install them as like standard. But I hate the way that you have to go down side by side now. Like,
are they all push fit now as well?
They fit. Yeah, a lot of them.
They're push fit, but you have to go side by. So you have to do live, earth, neutral.
They have to cross.
Right.
And it's like, no, but that's not how you're meant to do it. You're meant to tape them together and come over like that. That's how I like to do it.
That's the art of being an electrician, is knowing how to dress the cable. That's what electricians
do.
Yeah.
Or what you can do, speed it up. Do you know what I mean? Like when you can do them, but it's the screw fix ones that you see that
get out. Don't even talk about it. Let's just leave it at that.
Lap special, right?
Is screw fix LAP?
And you have to like do a wago outside, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it always looks shit, doesn't it? Like,
it always looks shit.
Like,
yeah.
What else do you do? You know.
I sent to a screw fix the other day for a spur, and I was like, I think they do MK, but because the only brand I could think they'd have that was reasonably decent was MK. So I think they do MK, but I think they'll tell you that it's next day. And I says, basically, we need a spur, but whatever they stock will be shit. And he come back and he goes, "Oh, it's a Schneider one." I was like, I guarantee it's from the fucking shit range. And guess what? It was not made in a Schneider factory. Some crappy rebrand. It was garbage.
The thing is with MK, like we're all of an age where MK, when it first came out, was decent. It was manufactured in this country. Decent, right? Yeah. Not anymore. Like, because I know it's like funny. I've had, annoyingly, we had a job where someone didn't pay attention to the spec, right? And we normally usually would just fit Hager straight away, right? Doing like a little bathroom. But he wanted to match the rest of the house, so he got MK. So because the fan isolate was showing outside, got fan isolate. It came, and two of the screws were not in. As I opened the packet,
yeah,
two of them weren't there, and the other one just cross-threaded, and it was like,
oh mate,
how many times have you had them? You're cross-threaded, and you start doing it up, you're like, why is this so tight?
Like,
doing it, and you're like, that's cross-threaded,
or it's tight, and then it just goes loose, and you're like, oh fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's just hindsight, like with a 3mm driver or 4mm, you're like, I'm not gunning it. Do you know what I mean?
I've got MK metal clad sockets I used to DJ, and I've got like a DJ stand made out of Unistrut. And on the back of that is a load of MK metal clad sockets, and they've been on, they've been off, they've been removed, they've been changed, they've been turned to long leads. I've reused them on jobs. They still screw like with their bought them. The new stuff I've tried is fucking shot.
They just choose. And even Hager, who are a brand that I was a real fanboy of, like their board, apart from their 3-phase boards, which are awful. I don't get how a brand can go from having like a really good single phase solid like board and unit. As soon as you put 3-phase in, honestly, it's not made out of tinfoil. The boards on them, you take the cover off.
Yeah, the old ones were really good. The older ones, really good. No, the cream colour, the ones that had the cream edge. But then when it's that smoke one, it was shit.
That's it. I've never taken one of those off, right, and not flicked off like 2 breakers at the same time with it, because it's impossible. And it's always like in a school or like an industrial unit, and you're like, just hear a scream or something, and someone's lost something. But
that's why
even for the stickers on those, a pony. The Hager single phase ones, right? They're decent quality. The ones on 3-phase, don't ask me why. They look like they look like knockoff. You put it on the board.
Snide Hager stickers.
I've put it on the board. Gone to get my testing from van. Come back and it's peeling off. Honestly,
so like do not use electric unless you know what you do. Always consult qualified friend.
Yeah, something like that. But you look at it funny. It just peels off. I don't know why.
I tell you what I noticed the other day, right? I'm going to let you into a little secret now. I've never bought Wagos, okay? Never bought.
I don't think I have, actually.
Exactly. Like, you don't buy Wagos. You just sort of like you acquire them. Yeah. Anyway, the other day, I've run out of Wagos. Went into the shop, was like, how much are these in? No price on them, obviously.
They're not cheap.
But where's the cities? And like,
I got like an assortment. Come to about 80 quid. I was like, connector blocks.
Yeah.
In my local,
give me some crimps.
In my local hardware shop, they have them on the counter in pots. You know, because you get DIYs. They have 2s, 3s, and 4s, 80 pence each. I was like, fucking hell, that's expensive. I looked, I'm not getting much cheaper.
And the thing is, I'm like, oh, I'll change out your connector block. That's old hat. I'll put in some Wagos. And I'm like, I'm not really accounting for that. Like, that's £1 each. Each one's £1, really, isn't it?
When will peak Wago occur? You know, because obviously this is one of the first things that is truly reusable. When will Wagos stop being required because there'll just be infinite amounts lying around for you to use?
Well, I mean,
always give and take, don't you?
No, do you know what happens? Do you know what happens? The lever breaks.
Filter. Yeah, that does happen.
The lever breaks.
Yeah,
I've not had that happen yet on me.
Yeah,
like if you drop a Fat Max tray of them, you will break them like inside. And if you do what I do and just like to store them now and again in your washing machine filter, along with like random screws and this and the other that really annoys the wife, it will break them at the same time as well. So
yeah, my missus goes mad about that.
How does a Wago get in my washing machine? I know every sparking house can think about this. Yeah, in my washing machine, there's no hole in there bigger than a pea, but a 5-way Wago could get into my filter. Yeah. What magic is happening?
Half eight and a brown plug and like whatever. I don't know, mate.
Do you know what? My mum used to have a pot, an old, like back in the day when I was going to the gym and stuff. When I was living at home, she had an old protein pot. And in about 2 months, she filled the protein pot with stuff from my pockets. That's mad.
I had one that I put on my Instagram a while ago, and it's a similar thing. And I was like, oh, there's a pot right by the washing machine. And I used to remember to empty my trousers. And similar thing. I used to look and be like, oh, fucking hell. But you actually look and you think, there's probably about 30 quid in there. Like, they are expensive. You know?
I've got a tip for this, right? You know,
David Savory, hold on, sorry, Jamie. Right. He's some sort of lunatic. I count up and charge for Wagos on the job.
I do that. They're not free.
I might have to start.
I tell you what, have you ever been to the wholesalers, right? And not
stole
been
something.
No, obviously, but no, have you ever, or there's 2 questions. One, have you ever been and got Wagos from big wholesalers and not been double booked for them? Because every time I get them, they always book out 2.
Oh, you CF a lot, do you?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. They all want to name names. And also, how many times do you taken something back that's broken or blown up or been faulty and you've taken back and then got it given back to you and gone to another job and installed it? Because that's happened to me a lot, like especially with fans. Like, say, a 12-volt fan that may or may not have had 240.
Mate, the amount of fans always don't work. The timer on them never works.
Never, yeah. So
you put it on and like you set it for 5 seconds, just so the minimum setting. 2 hours later, you're still standing there hoping it'll go off. It don't.
There are, which brand is it? Some of the Ventaxi ones, they don't work unless you have the cover on it. So we had someone go to a fault and they said the fan doesn't work. And the isolator was off for a start, right? So it's not going to work. But then he'd taken the cover off and turned it on. He was like, oh, I can't, but I've got voltage, but the fan doesn't work. But you put the cover on and it works. So it's one of those things that trips people up. I can't remember the brand of them, but it's a little bit like those, the MKRCDs, which, you have to pull down and push back up when they trip. That is.
Hold
on.
Money, yeah.
Hold on. I had this the other day, right? Get a phone call, geezer around the corner, needs a couple of sockets in his kitchen changed. It's an old contactant board where they've got like the board cover's got like it's see-through and it comes out in 2 halves like that. And then you get to the break.
Yeah.
It's old. Must be like 15.
It's got like colour-coded brake as well, isn't it? It's like blue,
no, it doesn't. No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's just like normal
brown switches, aren't they, on them?
Oh,
they are brown, yeah. Anyway, turn it off, change the sockets, all lovely, put them back, turn it back on, and I turned it back on. The doorbell went, so like ding dong, and
wiring's wrong.
No, I went back to the thing, and there's no power. I was like, huh? Anyway, get my tester out. There's definitely no power. Go back to the board, turn it off, turn it back on. Doorbell goes, there's power again.
That's weird.
I was like, I think you need a new fuse board, mate.
I've got one in here in this garage, right? Can anyone explain to me, right? I know what I'm doing. When I've got a data rack in here and I've got a TV there, right? And when I come in here, I stick the TV and I put YouTube on, yeah? Sometimes when I flick the TV on, the breaker trips because there's quite a lot of leakage in that and all the stuff, yeah? When I flick it back on, the fluorescent light over here flashes.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. This is a fucking fire start. I'm quite scared about it when it happens, but I'm like, why is that happening? That's what, the unfathomable things you come across. Like,
is it dual RCD or is it?
No, it's just one breaker. There's nothing to do with the light, but the light flashes.
Oh, right.
I'm like,
do you know what? Like, this is the problem I had this week, right? So the pub I'm doing this work at, they've got an outside socket. I told Jay about this earlier. They got an outside socket, and when the musicians plug their amp into it, they get a shock off the microphone, like only a light tingle.
Oh, ground loops. Here we go. This is bonkers stuff.
And I was like, not going to touch that because it is linked to a switch fuse spur onto the ring. There's a million things it could be on that circuit. I was like, I'm just going to pull in another one. Like, there's certain things in a pub, and it like problems you get. You're just like, I'm not even going to entertain that. I'm pulling in a new circuit.
Yeah, just fresh. Can't blame anyone then. Plus, on audio equipment, there's all sorts of mad shit that goes off. But pubs, keep out of pubs. If I was you, the only place I ever get confused when I'm doing tests, I've got a pretty logical brain when I'm testing. Like,
there's no logic in a pub.
That's the
Pubs,
problem. That is the
mate.
problem. Yeah.
Farms as well. Farms, everything's held together with string. Genuinely, everyone's Gerald off.
Strings, spiders, wedge, magic, and hope and prayer. Everyone I've been into has been awful.
It's the only place I've had a genuine neutral fault where I've been like, you need to call the electricity board because I ain't got a fucking clue what I'm doing here. Because it's like voltages that I've never seen on my tester before. It's flashing and all sorts. I'm like, nah, I'm out of here.
How many times have you been to a farm stuff like that? You look at it, you're like, how are you not dead? Like, seriously? Like, do you mean there's like,
I've never been to a farm.
Nerve just lashed around somewhere, and you're like,
Oh, my mate's got one. My mate owns a farm, and I did his brewery. They got a brewery in the farm. I was like, right, mate, as Sam just said, next to your intake, I'm going to put a separate switch fuse, and everything comes off that. And whatever the fuck goes off on the rest of your farm, I don't want anything to do with it. Because believe it or not, any animal with 4 legs is really easy to kill. It's like the dead easy to kill because they're dead susceptible to shocks. And I was like, everything I do is separate from your farm. I don't know what to do with it because I don't want a dead cow on my conscience.
Yeah, oh mate, I don't care about a dead cow, but I don't want any responsibility for the shit that's gone before. And on that note, Jay, top guest. Thank you very much for coming on today, mate.
very welcome. Thanks for having me.
You've done very well this week. No swearing from you. I've sworn more than you. Electricians Podcast.